Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Cloud Content. In this episode I'm sitting down with YouTube content creator and longtime member of the Halo community, Ascend Hyperion. Ascend is most known for his new series The State of Halo at the moment, but has a huge background in Forge Machinima. If you want to get in contact to ask a question relating to this episode, or would like to recommend a guest for the podcast, you can simply email me at johnson.business.yt@gmail.com. That's johnson.business.yt@gmail.com. With that being said, sit back, relax and enjoy. Alright, so today I'm joined by Ascend Hyperion, a member of the Halo community and I'm pretty sure a long-term content creator at this stage, would you say?
Long-term content creator? Probably not. I've been a long-time Halo fan, but I didn't start making content until a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah. So actually, first question I actually have on the list is why the name Ascend Hyperion? Where did it come from?
So way back when, in the days of old, I was in a clan. I was in charge of a clan, a Halo clan, named Ascend, and our gimmick is that everybody had Ascend as your first part of your name, and then we all picked like different Greek mythological figures as the second one. Mm-hmm. So I landed on Hyperion, but we had people like Poseidon and Hades and Ares and stuff like that, except for one buddy who his following name was Didact. I missed the mark a little bit there, but still stood out.
I suppose it's a bit more it rolls off the tongue a bit better than like Fred S2TO or whatever they use nowadays.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I was going to change my gamer tag. I took a break off of Xbox for a year. When I came back, I was going to change my gamer tag, but then I started getting involved in the Halo community, and then I was like, well, I think I'm stuck as Ascend Hyperion now, which is not a big deal.
Yeah, but like Xbox always has that really annoying thing as well, like where if you change your name, then everyone who meets you who might know who you are, then you have to kind of explain, yeah, I changed it. And then if you change it to something that's kind of like the normal generic, like obviously they're not generic with the, because you can't have the same gamer tag as someone else, but they've found ways around doing different tags for, say, like Spartan stuff and all that through clan community. But like if you have a similar one, people are going to be like, do I know you? Do I not?
Yeah. Yeah, so about 3 or so years ago, maybe 4 years ago at this point, I started getting involved with Forge Hub and the Forge community in particular. And I was kind of inspired to start making Forge map features by people like Forge Labs, an Unsorted guy, but more directly an old buddy in the community of mine called Brewski. And for those that don't know, the Forge community in the past kind of had this problem with exclusive, like being really exclusionary. It was really hard for run-of-the-mill forgers to kind of get any traffic and any recognition for the work they were doing. There weren't enough people featuring content, and there was definitely at the time an inner clique of forgers that kind of tried to hog and pass the spotlight around. So Brewski started making content just to kind of give the average forger a chance to at least get their name on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And then I picked up doing something similar where I was like, well, there's plenty of cool maps that just don't get any limelight. So maybe I can help shed some light on those. And that's how it started for me on YouTube. The channel's changed a little bit since then, but that's my first 60 or so videos are Forge map features.
Yeah, because I was going through your videos and I think I've probably binged your entire channel in the last week or so from when I found it last. It's not as big of a collection of videos as I was expecting for like 3 years. But one thing that I noticed initially when watching it is that it's clear to me that your content is very much quality over quantity, because there's such a brilliant level of cinematography and audio and everything else that, you know, goes into making a good video is put into it well. Like there's no half-baked sort of stuff, as you like say, fresh-baked content, I suppose.
Yeah, fresh-baked content. Well, that stuff takes time. I don't like making things that I'm not happy with, and if there's an idea that I don't think can be fleshed out, or if a product isn't coming out how I wanted, I won't make it.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, when I was kind of thinking of a way to describe your channel, because obviously besides Halo, what would you describe your channel as? Because I always, at least to me, it always seems like the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. But at least for me, when I watch your content, it's jack of all trades, master of all, because everything is so brilliantly produced. So how would you go around describing it?
I would say the Modern Ascend Hyperion channel is a good place for, I call it fresh baked Halo content. If you want information that tackles and transforms your view of 20 years of Halo, that's what Ascent Hyperion is about. My channel is very informational and educational, and it's all about, one of my big design motifs is a lot of creators when they make a video, they want to sell you their opinion. They want to sell you what they think is right for Halo. They want to sell you what they think is the perfect Halo. I just want to sell you information about Halo. I would just want to give you the raw, objective stuff and then let you go from there. And it's often about topics that don't get discussed, things that people skip over or don't think about that often have a domino effect that play big into how we experience the Halo franchise.
Yeah. So I would add on to that in saying that your content is very much sort of, I think it's evolved in the sense that it's stuck within the Halo community, but very much started off with Forge features, Forge content, moved then a little bit into, say, Machinima and whatnot, and then now has gone up to almost the more sort of analytical side of Halo content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would you, so speaking on, like, how do you come up with your ideas for your videos? Because some of them can be like, I don't know, like a 13-second or a minute clip of Veil dancing because there's going to be emotes in Halo Infinite, and then it's the next video is why aren't girls playing Halo, like a really analytical, in-depth discussion. So how would you go about it?
Well, I'm a very learn by doing type person. And on my channel, there's a lot of videos like you mentioned, like the animation stuff or like the machinima, where I had an idea and I had like concepts and I was like, well, I'm just gonna do it. I just want to see it in action. I want to see it in motion. I want to do it myself. And a lot of the stuff, especially some of my older, like the machinima especially, are what helped create my current production quality for my analytical videos because I learned a lot about film and practices and standards for creating cinematic shots, and that stuff has played into my current brand of content, which this new chain of analytical and educational content is stuff I always wanted to pursue. It's just in the past I didn't feel like I was there yet. I didn't think I had the ability to produce it how I wanted to.
Yeah, I think if there's anyone looking at your channel, that's very evidently clear, like that you always sort of like to experiment with new things. Like even if you just click onto a video, you don't even have to watch it, but like the amount of difference in like aspect ratios for so many of your different videos shows that there's an experimentative type there. I know from your, I think it's your second most viewed video, the first Huntress Machinima.
Oh yeah,
which by now is second by a long shot considering how much
by
the top one. Yeah.
yeah, that's actually about to get passed up by a different one of the design videos, the one about Cortana.
Oh yes, the Halo 4 one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But that first machinima is so well put together, like especially I think it's at this stage, is it a year or two old?
2 years, I think, going on 3 in 2021 here.
Yeah, so machinimas were good in the first place, but like there's certainly a different level, I would argue, to sort of that element of content creation, especially on the storytelling aspect. Like we saw Halo Follower had released this the new series about Reach, and it's very much all motion capture. Like I think that's starting to get in, and Blender was also a thing that more content creators were starting to use a while back, and Machinima was, I think, in a sense almost starting to die off, but I feel like there's a bit of a resurgence in that sort of scene. What would you say?
Well, yeah, I think it depends. I spent in 2019. I basically made no content on my channel. I was just kind of making machinima stuff to get my feet in the water, and I spent a lot of time in the machinima community. And I think there's definitely a crowd and an audience. It's probably not as big as it used to be, but people make a hyperbolic statement like, "Oh, machinima's dead," and this and that. That's not true. Like I've seen a lot of these creators up front. There's a lot of people making machinima. There's a market for it still. There's people who use it as a narrative avenue. So I think going into Halo Infinite, there's a lot of talent that's been budding up over the past couple of years that I think will deliver some strong and interesting narratives.
Yeah, because I think I remember when, at least when Halo 4 came around the corner, there was kind of a drop off in machinimas, but I think that was more due to the constraint of map creators at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Now I could be completely wrong in saying that.
Well, in Halo 4, when you lowered your weapon, if you moved, it unlowered it. Like if you walked. So there was a limitation on what you could do with the characters in Machinima, and then the system for achieving armor was a little different, and the visual quality was different. So yeah, it was a different environment that I think people weren't inclined to. And Reach was still like holding its own. It's not like Reach disappeared.
Yeah. One thing I noticed from your Huntress, there's volume one and volume two, but one thing I noticed is it has its own actual score, and it's done
And you
by,
beat me. You
yeah,
beat me to it.
that's fantastic. How did that come about? Like, where did that opportunity come from to get an actual original score for it?
Yeah, so both of those scores are by the very talented young Aaron Weatherford.
Hmm.
Aaron was in, I was in a different Machinima server. Oh, this is years ago, a different Machinima Discord server. And Aaron was supposed to make music for them. And their project fell through for one reason or the other. And I reached out to Aaron and I was like, hey, I know you're doing music for these guys, but, I've got a little something, something. If you might want to hop in on it, by that point it was almost done. I just kind of like I was giving Aaron the scenes as they went, and I described a musical genre for Aaron, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like that. Let's do it this way." And I was apprehensive at first, but then I started listening to it, and it completely transformed the aesthetic
Mm-hmm.
of the machinima, and I was totally on board with it.
And with the way sorry, I'm going to delve into this a little bit because I absolutely love analyzing music within all these different sort of mediums. But with regards to the way the music was done, was Aaron given the completed machinima at the end and then just scored over it, or was it kind of done on a scene by scene
So
basis?
I would do it. I would give him a very like low res copy of the scene I wanted him to score. So he would score it in time.
Hmm.
He would do his music along with the actual progression of the scene.
Yeah, so I suppose that's actually probably the best way you could do it in that scenario as well, especially on, when you're looking at a musical side, trying to get it to fit in well with the aspect that it's going for. So in that sense, yeah, it's really good. But I was just so surprised when I saw it. I was like, this is a soundtrack. What? Like usually everyone just reuses like Halo 4 music or Halo 3 music or something. But no, this seemed like it had a lot of effort put into it. So again, it always comes back to the master of all trades at this stage, I think, for you. But let's move on to more your analytical stuff. And you've kind of started doing that a lot more, I think, in the last 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, starting back in May, I basically relaunched Ascend Hyperion.
Mm-hmm. The I think the analytical videos the sort of separate ones that weren't part of the State of Halo series. Was the State of Halo series always in the background of what you wanted to do now, or was that just kind of halfway through making those sorts of videos thought I'm going to dive into this a bit more?
The State of Halo was definitely not on the original content plan. It was born out of kind of a bunch of internal questions I had with myself. Is that, we're always in the community disagreeing about this and that, and this person says yada yada. And what really got me is that people like to say, "Oh, and the majority of players think this." And I'm an engineer in real life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're cautious about you make a statement and then you involve a number or a statistic. Like you better have some information on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like everybody was just kind of blowing smoke out their ears. Like no one knows who the majority of who is. Everyone just assumes that everybody loves XYZ or hates, ABC. So I just wanted information. Yeah. So I started asking questions, doing polls, reaching things out, probing communities, and it's been just kind of like a running thing. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, I felt like I had all the information I needed to start sharing it as a source, as a reference for people to be like, okay, now I know X amount of people think this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was first looking at it, I have to admit when I first came across your channel and I saw you were doing this sort of series, I was kind of a little bit skeptical of it at first because I've seen people before, who have gone out and done polls and they have a very low amount of, participation and then they kind of put that out as fact. But you have how many people was it participated in the surveys for it again?
We're well into the thousands for total population or participation. And it's one of the things that people comment on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever. There's always some guy who says, "Oh, but the survey size, right? They talk about it's not enough people."
Hmm.
One of the big things with this is because I know my math. This information is based on confirming trends, where I'll take question A and I'll ask it to 100 people and they'll give me something. And then I'll ask 300 people and they'll give me something. And then I'll ask, yada, yada, yada. And if I see in all these different sample sizes, I'm getting the same percentages, that's probably indication that that number's not going to change. I could get 2,000 people, I get 20,000, 200,000. the idea is that that number is not going to shift.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for people to visualize that, especially if you're not in a math background. Some people just want to believe that, if you ask enough people, the answer will change. But um, given the background of how this is being done, there's nothing that tells me that these people that have been surveyed are secretly like aligned to give answers in the same percentages. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, because like I think anyone who knows at least the smallest bit about a survey will know that the sample size that you have for the current state of Halo series is sizable enough. Like, I don't think many other surveys would go, well, depending obviously on what they're surveying, but majority of surveys, whether it was at a national level, wouldn't go above the 5,000 mark. I don't think so. To have it in the couple of thousands for just a separate community, I think is big enough in itself.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be. I think people focus too much on that number. It's because people don't have the background to understand what that number means.
Mm-hmm.
It's representative, not like totally like everybody's put in a vote. That's the big thing. I think people are gonna have to get their minds around is that this is a bunch of different groups of people saying the same thing a bunch of different times.
Mm-hmm. Was the sort of thought process behind doing this series initially, was it just sort of a love for the Halo community, or was it a mix of both that and sort of an interest in social research on the side as well?
It's all about providing answers and insight. That's something that I love to do on my channel is that some people want to say that I'm spreading a message or I have this opinion or this or that, and people can think that if they want. At the end of the day, what I want to do is give people information, and I want to give you tools to form your own thoughts and opinions. Um, and in order to, in my eyes, form valid thoughts and opinions, you need information, you need backing. So with the state of Halo, I hope to provide information and backing that we haven't had before as a general community.
Mm-hmm. Is it an individual project as well, or there's people in the background helping out, maybe verifying survey questions and whatnot?
It's just me. I automated everything. The surveys feed into spreadsheets that run all the equations I need them to run and give me a nice little result inside a box. Except there's like a bunch of boxes and a bunch of results, and then I cross them and all types of stuff. But luckily modern technology does a lot of the hard work for me.
Yeah. But have you never been like, at least, and correct me if I'm going down the wrong sort of line here, but have you ever kind of thought maybe a question was too leading in a certain scenario, or maybe you haven't, or would it not be better to get maybe a second set of eyes on it?
I don't feel that way. There are some questions that are deliberately pointed. And there's a difference between, let's say, for example, I have a background in Forge. Some people know me as a forger. I have maps and matchmaking. If I go to forgehub.com and ask the question, do you guys use Forge? That would be a biased, pointed question. That would be definitely like invalidating.
Mm-hmm.
But these pointed questions I'm asking are more so reactionary to sentiments that we have accepted from other content creators. A good one, because I feel like I could say this without invalidating the information now. There's some content creators who say nobody will play Halo if X, right? So every now and again in those surveys, I'll tuck in a question: how do you feel about X? And as far as my insights show, the first person was again just blowing smoke out their ears. They dislike something, so they assume everybody else dislikes it. But then you ask everybody else, and it's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that vocal minority versus the silent majority effect, where if enough people are saying the same thing, you might think it's everybody. But then if everybody actually spoke up, you find out it's a lot less people talking than you thought.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, or well, I suppose, do you hope that at the end of all this, it'll have a sort of a positive opinion or a positive effect on members of the community, that they'll kind of start thinking a bit more for themselves, or do you think it'll kind of stay around the same?
I think there will always be people who are inclined to reject things that don't match their worldview. That's a natural part of the human psyche. People don't like when things mismatch their viewpoint of the world. I think it's my hope and it's my belief that there will be a good amount of people who will digest this information and be like, wow, this is stuff I didn't know before. And now I can make a more informed decision or assertion in conversation, because I have something I didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are always going to disagree, but I can't save everybody.
I suppose I was noticing a bit like I know you like to post sort of the really bad comments from your videos, especially with regards to the state of Halo. But how has the feedback to the series been generally? Has it been mostly positive?
Well, so I very intentionally started with something I knew would rile people up.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in gaming, we don't like to talk about the cultural issues related with gaming. And I don't feel like I presented the information from Girls Don't Play Halo in a way that was shaming men or attacking men or anything like that. But there are people who took it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, if you ask me, that's on them. If they feel attacked and I wasn't attacking them, that's not my liability. That's just their insecurity. There have been a lot of people who I've been very thankful for, and I told the women I interviewed this too. People have reached out to me in private and said, "Thank you for making this video. Thank you for talking about this because people are scared to. Thank you for validating my feelings that I've had to hold close to my chest because
Mm-hmm.
people respond. Wow, some people have responded to you." I think there was a lot of people who looked at it and said, "Wow, okay, this is something I didn't know about," and there were definitely people who appreciated finally getting a voice in the community on an issue that is, I mean, it's real. It's real by numbers.
Hmm. Do you anticipate that like future uploads for the series will be as controversial? I don't like saying controversial because it's really not a controversial topic, but it is to some.
Yeah. Um, I think each video will elicit people who want to reject the information because
Mm-hmm.
it won't match their worldview. And that's, that'll be what it is. I'm not responsible for holding people's hands and guiding them to seeing the world past their eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as I look forward to the next, like maybe this next episode especially, and the one after that, it'll definitely be more food for thought, more to chew on. I hope that it'll correct some people's ideas about where majorities and minorities lie in our community. And not, this isn't for like gender or race. This is like for more game oriented stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll have to see how people receive the information going forward.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk. So again, I mentioned the last few months you've focused mainly on analytical content, not just in the State of Halo series. But does that is that sort of leading to the fact that you're probably going to step away a little bit from your sort of old content of Forge and Machinima, or are you still kind of keeping them on the background for the moment?
They're definitely resting more on the back burner. I have involvements with the Forge community that are often off the books. As a community coordinator for Forge Hub and as someone who's an advocate and a correspondent for the Forge community.
Mm-hmm.
I have an active role in that. Machinima, there is one plan going into 2021 here. But definitely the focus going forward is on the analytical design discussion videos and the state of Halo. And to be honest, in many ways, that's just based on viewer reception. I made Forge and Machinima content for 3 years before I started these videos, and I started these videos maybe a couple months ago, and now that's what's garnered pretty much the entirety of my viewer base is this new chain of videos. So that's currently where the emphasis lies.
The obviously the first State of Halo video incorporated members of the community with regards to gauging their opinions on different topics. Is there anyone particular in the Halo community who you'd really like to collab with? Not just on the analytical side, but anything related to Halo?
As of right now, there's no singular person. With the state of Halo, especially with this first episode, I brought in 3 women because I needed thoughts and opinions from women, and I happen to be a man, so I would have been really hypocritical to try to like claim I knew anything about their situation. Moving forward, I do want to bring in people who might have expertise or extra insight in my topics, or not my topics, but the topic at hand. I'm apprehensive to include other content creators because a lot of them operate with a bias. You know, a lot of them are trying to sell a message, and that's cool. Whatever, that's on them. That's their content. I don't care. But you know, if I'm trying to talk about numbers, the last thing I need is someone trying to twist and bend the information to fit their worldview for their fans. So you know, if content creators get brought on, it'll be in instances where they kind of are forced to speak objectively or more inclined to do so.
I have my final question now, and this is, I think, completely off the wall, to be honest, this last one, but it's very meta and it's very sort of, I don't know, very subjective as well. But if you were to rank the Halo games, where would you put them? It's no correlation with the last few questions, but there you go.
Well, you know, that's how you know I'm doing my job right, because that means you haven't been able to figure it out from my videos. I talk about that all the time in my comments or in general. I'm like, I have opinions about Halo, and I could talk about them if I wanted to, but I just don't. My favorite Halo is Halo 2. Narrative wise, I think that's the strongest Halo game. Halo 2 Anniversary is my favorite Halo multiplayer experience. And then kind of running down the list, I really enjoyed Halo 5. Halo 4, it was fun. It's easy. Halo 4 is easy to play. Halo 3 is cool and all. I like it much better now that I can have 100 FOV and centered crosshair.
Yeah,
I find Halo 3 intolerable without those things nowadays. The only Halo game I shy away from playing really is Halo CE. I don't like Halo CE that much.
Yeah.
And I play it, you know, ironically, I have to play it and research it a lot for my videos because I'm always going back and back and back on the design chain. But Halo CE doesn't really rank that high with me. I'd rather, it's kind of whenever I'm enabling and disabling games in the matchmaker, I usually always turn off Halo CE.
Yeah, it's very much one of those, like, obviously it started it all, so it has to be loved, but at the same time, if you were to go back and play it now, it has aged quite a bit.
Yeah, you know, and some people, you know, they're into it. You know, they're like, "Oh yeah, Halo CE is the jam," and I'm like, I don't know, man. This game, especially compared to every game that comes after, I mean, Halo CE is, in my eyes, notably underperforming, and that's a good thing. I mean, you would expect the games to get better over time, which I think they did. So, I forgot Reach. Reach is cool. I had no problems with Reach.
Well, not just Reach, but also ODST.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I played.
Not a shining review there.
I don't dislike ODST. It's just there's no, in my eyes, there's no reason to play it. I played it for the first time since it came out, like a month ago, whenever it came to PC. That was the first time I had played through it since it came out back in the day, and that's because I thought ODST Firefight was not a fun like gaming experience. And that's just me. I don't like the repetitive
grueling, to be fair,
wave shooter crap, you know?
Yeah. So just before we finish off, I kind of want to get sort of a list based for this. I'm sorry if this is annoying you, but like, so 2 at the top, then 5, 4, I think.
Okay. So list.
Yeah.
Are we asking about campaign or multiplayer?
Just in general, I suppose, if you were to take the entire game as a whole.
As entire game as a whole.
I'm not letting any loopholes out here, no.
Yeah, let's do H2A at the top.
Okay.
Let's follow that by Halo Reach, and Halo 5, Halo 3, Halo 4, and then Halo CE.
And then ODST at the bottom?
Yeah, I guess so, because no reason to play it.
No, yeah. That's pretty much it. Ascend Hyperion, thanks so much for sitting down and talking with me today.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Usually people are just coming around to yell at me about something, so it's always good to be asked some genuine questions.